Yeah, you can't help it. Like, even this early in the morning, you're still mad to get the old air guitar or air bass out.
Yeah. Listen, you always feel better once you hear that tune.
Yeah, I think our viewers like it as well. Viewers, do you like that tune? Do you want us to go a different direction, or would it be heresy to go away from it?
No, we One Direction. That tune.
By the way, we have a couple of coaching clinics coming up very soon. Valley Rovers in Cork, March 11th, 11 a.m. That's going to be Michael Fennelly, Brick Walsh and Pat Ryan, who's recently departed from the Limerick panel. Then also another man who's no longer involved with John Kiley set up, Barry Hennessy. He retired recently. Pádraig Mahoney and Richie Power. They're going to be in Pilltown, Kilkenny. So you can buy tickets to those. The link is in the video description. Michael, how's she cutting this morning?
Good. Richie's no longer involved with Roscommon either, and that was, I thought that was interesting. Francis O'Halloran made a bit of a statement where you'd have to say he took a fair cut at the players, and you'd like to see maybe what some of the player commentary or the players' retort to that would be. I thought, like, in one way, kind of, you'd say maybe he threw the players under the bus by coming out with a managerial statement, basically saying that the commitment was there from the management team, but it wasn't there from the players. I personally think you're better off just leaving quietly, I would say, rather than making a statement like that. But listen, we don't know the ins and outs of exactly what happened, but definitely an interesting one. Anyway, it was the first managerial casualty of 2023, inter-county. It's amazing. What are we in? We're in the second week, coming into the third week of February.
Yeah, because like I'm looking at the league table here, and the division they're in, they're at the bottom. Look, 2 games have been played. How much can you read into it? They're at the bottom of Division 3A. And when you're talking about the commitments that a team would have and that the management are looking for, it's kind of curious to know how many days a week are they looking for the players to train, and what were the players willing to do, and was it just a certain cohort were willing to do and others weren't? Because, it's obviously difficult to get players who, what can you aspire to when you're down in Division 3A? What are you really going to do in Championship? And what do they want from them? And what are the players willing to give? And actually, that also extends itself onto another conversation about, what should really constitute the grant that you get as an inter-county player? Because there's plenty of club teams out there that probably train more or harder, more often and more professionally than some of the teams at the very bottom rung of maybe the hurling leagues.
Yeah, like I know what you're saying. Like,
well, you sort of admitted that Ballygunner would beat Offaly, for example. I'm not saying that.
I definitely didn't. Yourself and Nicky didn't. Yourself and Nicky were fairly strong on that. Yeah, I understand, but like county, like I know it sounds silly, like, but county is like there's only 32 obviously counties that can compete within whatever. If club teams have gone to another level, I think it's only natural that you'd say some club football teams would, potentially compete at. It's funny, I think they'd only potentially compete at Division 4, maybe Division 3 level. Whereas hurling, because there's there's a dozen counties here, and then the other counties, maybe the standard drops maybe quite quickly when you go outside of that, and there's so many different levels. I don't know. I wouldn't be questioning the grant that they're getting or anything like that. It's just like, if you're looking, just for example, somewhere like Roscommon, it's not to say that they're not, training 3 or 4 times a week or doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. But like traditionally, even it's just been like they've been kind of miles off the pace. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. I don't know if it's anything to like. What are you saying, that club players should be? Are you saying that you're just saying the county players shouldn't be? Some county players shouldn't be getting the grant.
Well, I'm just wondering, where do you draw the line between, right, those lads are training so hard that they're meriting a grant, whereas these teams, it's kind of, there's a couple of teams that are rag-arse rovers. Let's call a spade, but we're not going to name any teams, but there are a couple of teams that are rag-arse rovers, and you're just wondering, is that really what the grant is for? A team that sort of operates probably, like there's so many of the inter-county hurling teams that their own county boards probably don't even care about. And, the way that Ballyhale Shamrocks compare by comparison, it's in a whole different league. And I'm wondering, do some of those county teams even merit grants, given the probably minimal commitment that's involved, or sort of questionable commitment levels?
Wow.
Well, what's wow?
Wow is, I'd say, you're probably after taking a pop at half of the county hurling teams that are out there.
Yeah, but like, There are some of them that are Ragars Rovers.
I tell you what, I obviously would have.
Many.
Yeah, I obviously would have been involved with Offaly for a while, and would have been involved in Wicklow for a while. Two different levels, obviously. And Wicklow would have been playing Ring Cup, and yeah, there would have been. You know, it would have been pretty professional in the sense of, you know, what sessions we were doing and what we're supposed to be doing and trying to keep up with the rest. You go down below that. I think there are levels of grants as well. By all accounts, there's a level for if you're competing in an All-Ireland final or competing at McCarthy level. It does kind of go down a small bit the further down you go. So it's not as if they're getting the exact same. There was the Beano there for a while when the grants came out first, where everybody was getting slapped with, I think it was the guts of about 1,500 or something like that. It was unbelievable, really. I think you need to maybe talk to the GPA maybe more, and that's the reason why. And see, here's the thing. Were you
picking up fine there for a while? You were.
I was, yeah, not much now, but I was picking up a bit. If you're, how should we say, if counties that are operating, you know, at the lesser levels are getting, shall we say, a lot less, then you have potential dissension within county ranks of, you know, people been at different tiers and why aren't we being treated the same or whatever. But we've gone into a remarkable segue here, I have to say.
Yeah, but like, I'm not saying there's many teams like this, but I do think there's a couple. So Richard Hogan has teed us up lovely. Bit late, but let's get this over with. Tipper back. So obviously, I wasn't on the show on Monday.
Why?
Well, I attempted to stay up for the Super Bowl, the Chiefs and the Eagles. And I thought, okay, I'm going to be up till like 4 a.m. The show, we're going to have to be up at 7:30 doing preparation, all this kind of stuff. I barely made it halfway through the second quarter, and I was inside the lab.
Ah, that's pathetic. Like, you actually went to bed?
Yeah. I was like,
pathetic.
I was there struggling to watch it. I was like, this is a class game, but I can't even enjoy it. But what I did do is when I woke up, I put the highlights on without knowing the score, and I enjoyed the highlights. Up until that bogus late call that gifted the game to the Chiefs, which I'm sure you know all about.
You fell asleep. My God. My God.
I know, yeah. But back to Richard Hogan there, talking about Tip being back. Obviously, I wasn't on the show on Monday, so I haven't chatted to you about it. Were you? No, you weren't at that match, were you?
No, I was at Galway and Cork, and I still haven't got to watch back the full game, unfortunately. You've obviously seen it. I'm sure you've watched it 3 or 4 times. You watched the replay in the pub the next morning, and then you had a big crowd watching it in the pub that evening as well.
Yeah, I made them turn it on in Ryan's in Camden Street.
It was like just the bits I saw. It kind of reminded me actually of particularly that first half. Remember I mentioned it on a previous show. I think it was it the 2009 league where Kilkenny had fitted in the first half, and I think they got a standing ovation going in, and they were basically saying at half time to lock them in and make them watch the replay or whatever. But like the roles were totally reversed the other day. You had a massive advantage going in at half time. Kept them at arm's length, I'd say, in the second half. What did you make of it? I suppose crucially, our Tip back.
Well, like as soon as Liam Cahill and Michael Beavens were brought back in, it was pretty obvious that Tipperary were going to improve massively. We'll wait and we'll keep our powder a small bit dry for the summer, but like it doesn't seem to matter who they start. So there was 9 changes between this game and the Laois game, and Tipperary looked physically massive and primed. You were there for the Laois game, looked really impressive. For the first time that I can think of, you have players like routinely turning and running straight down the centre and looking to stretch defences, pop off a pass and try and get goal chances, which is what Liam Cahill's underage teams did. They were goal machines. So straight away, I was expecting this to be what Tipperary did. And throughout the first half here, like Alan Tynan, now he scored a point, but my God, Alan Tynan was just very hard to keep into. The amount of times he burst straight down the centre. Remember one time a defender came to meet him and you thought he was going to get bowled over, but he burst the man out of the way instead going. Dan McCormick was running at the opposition. One thing I'd say, Jake Morris now, he got himself some scores, and scored 1-2 from play, but could have had a lot more actually. And I actually wonder if playing on the left wing, where he was regularly shooting off his left side for a left-hander, as opposed to kind of shooting across himself, where I think he's got real power when he strikes. I actually think he probably would have scored maybe double that if he was on the other wing. And there's obviously reasons to have him on that wing. I'm sure they've thought about it, but they have him further out so that he can turn and run straight out of defence because he's so fast. But I just wonder, putting him the other wing, like maybe as a back over the years, did you prefer being on one, let's say, one corner rather than the other, one wing rather than the other?
Yeah. No, I would have always preferred. Playing in the left. I don't know. I just thought it was tidier off my left. As you're getting the ball, you're able to deliver a pass. It was back in the day. There's no point in saying any difference. It was a clearance. Like there was no deliveries or like that. It was 100 yards down the line. But I would have always preferred kind of playing on the left. Yeah. But then when you get a bit older, I nearly preferred. I was moved out wing back, and you'd nearly prefer to be right wing back, because if you got to open your shoulders, maybe shoot for a point, you were on your right, in a standing position, you're going to prefer to be on your right hand side. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But that's funny. But it would have been left corner back, and then it would have been right wing back. Do you know what I mean? They're two complete. They're like opposites in many ways, but depends on what you're trying to do in a position as well.
Yeah. Whereas if I was a wing back, for catching the ball, I'd prefer to be on right wing back, so you can hope to hold your man out, and then you've completely freed up your left. But if I was going forward to deliver, which feels a while ago now, I prefer the left, because I just think that I have more accuracy when I'm trying to punch the ball with the left.
Isn't that really funny? Like I would go with my left.
And less of a wind up as well.
Yeah, it's just like that. If you're going for a 20 or 30 yarder, I'd always prefer to be on my left. It's kind of funny like that. But if you were shooting for power at a target, you're obviously going to go on your right hand side. But it's funny if you get, and I think, and maybe you kind of mentioned off air, some of the Kilkenny lads are probably a lot more comfortable maybe on one side than the other. And I think at senior inter-county level, you just have to be equally confident on either side. You have to, you can't be able to show somebody a side and think, oh, the percentage chance of them scoring here has been reduced by X, Y, or Z. You have to be so comfortable off left and right. And the best of the best it's just, it's nuts to a monkey really either side, which they're off,
Yeah, but the Kilkenny lads that they have to come back from the Shamrocks, they're some of the classiest hurlers on both sides. So put Owen Cody, Adrian Mullen, TJ Reid and so on into that team. And, it's obviously going to improve them massively. I thought Nolan McGrath looked excellent. And this, Tipperary actually had a team that was working as a unit. Like last year we saw, for example, in that humiliation against Cork were walking the ball out past Tipperary. Here, there was times in the first half, 2 or 3 times, that Tipperary got a hurley in and blocked a delivery out from Kilkenny.
Yeah.
Nolan McGrath, his tackling was excellent. I thought a lot of the guys were very good. Conor Bowe really impressed me. Jason Ford, probably for the first time in his career, like the team is working the ball up the field and then popping lovely one bounce ball in front of him that he can turn and strike it over the bar. And, there's some of these older players with Tipperary, like Ford's only 28 or 29. Nolan McGrath maybe 31 or 2. Dan McCormick is probably about 29 now at this stage. Seamus Callan, who played, Bonner Maher, who's on the bench. Like, these lads have appeared in the last couple of weeks. And whereas the last 2 or 3 years, you're almost thinking, geez, time's running out. The way the team is now playing as a unit, it's probably favouring these lads now. And, they're not isolated all the time. And I actually think all of a sudden the older players look like they can have huge seasons.
Look re-energised, Shane. There's a bounce in them. There really is. And we talked about the balance of the team. And having those maybe experienced lads, it's not to say that they can't cover the same ground. They probably won't be able to cover the same ground as some of the younger fellas. But like that Ford's role, get him the ball, get him into those positions. Do you know what I mean? He's as good a finisher as there is in the country. And you mentioned there about Cork walking out. Like, how heartening is it to see when you're at the other end of the field or anywhere, when you just see a lad like that and it's, he's knocking him back. He's, making him turn, making him change direction. Holding the ball up makes it so much easier for lads at the opposite end of the field, and you just have so much more confidence in what you're looking up at as well, and you've so much more confidence to know that the ball's not going to come in easy here. They're doing their part to make my job look a lot easier. Like, I always think when defenders are walking out with ball, like, yeah, the defender's doing really well, he's reading the play, but a lot of it is to do with, what are 13, 14 and 15 and 10, 11, 12 doing to make sure that the ball coming in is, the percentage chances of me getting it are increased. And Tipper definitely do that now. They're fronting up an attack, which is huge really.
Yeah, and like, as I said, operating as a unit, and there's a lot of ignorance in the backs as well. Like Barrett, he's one of 3 players that's going to be injured for a while, so he bumped into Ronan Maher, and he's going to be out for several weeks. I think it's a shoulder injury. Niall O'Mara, he's got a groin issue, 6 or 7 weeks. And Paddy Cadell, unfortunately, he's out for the season. Yet another knee injury for Tipperary. So that's very disappointing. But like the ignorance in the backs, like Michael Breen is a pig there at full back, which, you know, obviously you want. That's a good thing. Enda Heffernan comes in, bit of size, Porrick Campion as well. And the thing is, the defence isn't being sort of like stretched out like it was last year. Like I remember watching Tipperary, was it losing by a point to Dublin in Semple Stadium? And the space in front of the full back line was ridiculous. And you had Owen Connolly, who's probably 6'4", and a big man, marking Aidan Mellett, who's a small man and nippy and fast, and like nice ball popped in front from. What do you expect a 6'4" man to do in that situation? Whereas here he's in the full back line. Tipperary's defence isn't as exposed. The ball isn't coming up the field as quickly because it's, you know, the work is good, and he has a very good game. So like all these players can be that bit better when they're not exposed and fast ball isn't coming in.
Can I just say something to you? Isn't it a surefire sign that a team is in disarray and not going well when you see the half back line up around midfield and you see it's a structural thing. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that 5, 6, and 7 have to be standing there the whole time. That's not, you know, possible. But like, you know, was it Duggan's goal against Tip last year? Remember where Conlon just ran up the whole defence? Just like that's a surefire sign that, you know, things are not good, and structurally they look so much more sounder now. It doesn't, like, you're going to do well to find, you won't find a gaping hole, and you'll do well find a hole anywhere in the, you know, it's just an awful lot tighter now. Like look at Limerick never happens. They're never opened up like that. There's even when, you know, it looks like there's 10 men up the field or whatever, there's always the full back line and maybe Barry Nash in front or Declan Hannon in front. There's always that bit of cover, like the way the Dublin footballers would have learned from that 2014 defeat to Donegal, where Johnny Cooper was always back or Keane O'Sullivan was always back. Tip just look an awful lot more compact. And while I wouldn't read a huge amount into some of the league results and some of the form, I would definitely think Tip looks so much sounder now than they do, and I don't think they're going to be cut open. And then I think it's just probably a mentality shift up the pitch as well. They're going to work an awful lot harder, and I think they want to break those lines. There's not going to be any handy scores taken. They're just going to go. It's going to be trying to break the line, and pop the ball off or whatever with frenetic speed and pace. And yeah, if I was a Tipperary supporter, which I'm not, I'd be hugely encouraged for what's to come, because while it is only early, like, there's been a total mentality shift in Tipperary.
I'll just go through a few comments and then we'll talk about Kilkenny. So Tip won't get out of Munster 100%, says One Stop Auto. Tip will come out of Munster, says Chris Conlon. The two boys are having a real battle there. Worst team in Munster last year, same players this year. But saying that, Cal is top class.
Well, you could say that, Shane, about Waterford in 19. It was the same players in 20. They got to an All-Ireland final and ran Limerick to 4 points in the Munster final. Like, you know, you've been involved as a player where a manager comes in, it's the same group of players, but it's a completely different setup. And yeah. I'm not having a pop at any manager or anything like that, but things drop. And I do think there's a responsibility on the players, but you kind of can get beaten down in a bad setup, and everything just drops 10 or 15% across the board. And when that happens, it just has detrimental effects. Same players could be completely lifted up by a new management team or new structures or new style of play or whatever, and they can be 10 feet tall. The same players that underperformed one year can be 10 feet tall the year after in a different setup.
Yeah, One Stop Auto is asking about Paddy Cadell being a massive loss. Like, he's a player that I obviously felt should have got a lot more game time before this year, and now that he finally is getting it, does the cruciate. Yeah, it's a bit of a blow, and certainly for him. Kilkenny, do you know, I thought it was quite interesting that Derek Ling wasn't going to stand on ceremony if players weren't performing up to the level he wanted. So 23 or 24 minutes in, Keane Kenny, who was obviously a very good player for them in 2023 season, he was pulled out, and obviously he'd been thinking about it for a few minutes. He didn't just decide off the top of his head to just pull and take him off right there in the 23rd or 4th minute. So he was taken off very quickly. Alan Murphy was brought on, and he was taken off about 22 or 3 minutes after coming on. So he's not going to stand around. If he feels that lads aren't going well, you know, Conor Heary and Killian Doyle, they were both whipped at half-time as well. So he's not just going to stand around. He's going to make those changes if he's not happy.
Yeah, and like looking at what he was looking at the other day against any team, like you would take the open notice if someone wasn't playing well. But against Tipperary, in particular, not going to be happy enough with what they were doing, and like they let Tipperary. You see it, a brilliant player or whatever. If he's allowed space on the ball, he can do anything with it. They were allowing Tipperary time on the ball, particularly in the first half the other day. I think he would have been vindicated with some of his subs. And John Donnelly came in and was absolutely outstanding. In fairness, when he came in, But like he probably didn't lick that off the ground either. Ling wouldn't have had, like Cody would have been pretty ruthless. And you'd say, if things are going okay, I think it's okay to, let a lad maybe give a chance to work into a game. But if things are going as bad as they were at different stages the other day, you just have to put your foot down and look at somebody else at that moment in time. That's not to say he's going to cast any players aside, but you have to have that ruthless edge to it. And it's they mightn't have got the result or whatever, but definitely showed that he's not afraid to whip off a lad if he's not doing it.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says Alan Murphy got injured breaking the ball for the Keown goal. I didn't cop that. Well, when he came off, he just looked disappointed to me, but maybe you're 100% right, Richard Hogan. And both tip goals came from defensive mistakes. The thing I'd be saying is Tipperary actually could have had another couple of goals. Connor Bowe probably be disappointed he didn't fill his boots. We'll move on a little bit. Actually, do you know what? I was messing with a couple of the Kilkenny boys afterwards, and I'd fully watched the entire game the other day, and I messaged them saying, lads, what, on a group with 3 Kilkenny lads, how did that game finish up? I stopped watching when I could see the Tipperary lads lost interest.
They'd love that.
yeah. You joking aside, obviously it'll be very different as the months pass by. All-Ireland winning Tyrone midfielder Con Kilpatrick reckons other counties don't like seeing us doing well, but he can't really understand why. So he's on the BBC GAA social podcast. Do you want to read out some of what he said there?
Yeah. He just said Kilpatrick acknowledged that Tyrone, in quotes, probably didn't carry ourselves as champions last year, but he hit out at any suggestion that they were fortunate to win the All-Ireland the year before, and claimed that many outside the county are only too delighted when things aren't working out for them. He just said, genuinely, I don't know why that is. I just think that other counties don't like to see us doing well. It might have come from the Noughties team that nobody really liked, and it's just building, and it's just stayed with a lot of people. I think especially we're up in the north, we got a lot of attention from down south, and it's not just us, all the teams do, which is probably unfair because we're all playing the same game. We're all there for the same goal, but to put my finger on it, it's a good question to kind of think about. I have to say, I love the Tyrone team of the Noughties. They play a different style of football, but like if you look at, if I'm thinking of players that I really love from the Noughties, Sean Kavanagh, Philip Jordan, Brian Dewar, they're playing Muggsy, Canavan as well. They'd be players they'd be hugely high up on my estimation. So I don't know if they were hated. They were probably disliked by Kerry because they couldn't beat them. But
is this more his mentality and maybe a Tyrone mentality that everyone hates us and they're so used to building up siege mentality things that they've themselves convinced that everyone hates them?
Maybe so. And like the COVID thing came into it as well. Like we still don't really have all the answers around, how many play. You know what I mean?
And people were right to ask questions at the time. As insane as all the restrictions were in Ireland at the time, at that time, everyone was, supposedly playing ball, and they didn't want to answer questions.
Yeah, well, and Shane, like you're allowed to ask questions when a fixture is changed. Was it changed twice? Am I right in saying it was changed twice? I think it was.
I think it was. Yeah,
they weren't going to play it, and then they weren't. No, they looked for a postponement. Then they were pulling out, and then the next fixture was made. Like it was weeks after Dublin played Mayo, so I think it's fair for people to ask questions. And no matter who you are or where you are geographically in the country, you're probably going to be questioned for, the vacuum of information. Maybe I remember going up to the Tyrone press night before the 22 All-Ireland final, and it was announced, before any interview started, that they wouldn't be talking about, the COVID chaos or anything like that. They wouldn't be talking about it. I remember, and I did a back page piece for it because it was kind of like, Tyrone ban on this. You know what I mean? Like, so you're trying to control the conversation as well. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe it is a bit of a siege mentality thing, but I don't know if that's a personal thing with Con Kilpatrick or if it's within the county as a whole. But I thoroughly enjoyed Tyrone winning the All-Ireland in 2021, I'd have to say. And it was an unbelievable journey from start to finish, and probably something that was very unlikely. I think it's funny to come out with those comments, particularly after just how bad they were last year. It was one of the worst All-Ireland defences probably in history, realistically, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is as well, there have been games where, players have acted a little bit untoward. And if I was to look back at the 2015 under-21 All-Ireland, Tipperary wouldn't have been too happy about the behaviour of certain people that day as well. And I know Tyrone weren't overly happy either. One stop Aughug's going in heavy, as he has been throughout with the comments already today. Lads, they cheated for the All-Ireland, plus they're filthy. Right, so you're leaving nothing on the sideline there. You're not sparing timber at all. Ali Legend asks, is Verney all set for Edinburgh? Are you going over for a fringe festival or something?
Actually, I'm heading over for a stag tomorrow, and I'm back Sunday for work, actually. Thank God I don't drink, or I probably wouldn't even make the flight back. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's a Buffers Alley related stag, so the Ali Legend is obviously involved there. Looking forward to meeting all the Wexford boys. I only know one lad on the stag, that's the stag himself, so I don't know anybody else, but it should be good crack.
Now, I know you wouldn't go into any of these establishments, nor would I, but there's a place in Edinburgh where there's like a meeting of roads, and there's 2 or 3 gentlemen's clubs, we'll call them, lap dance type clubs, and they call that area where the roads kind of meet the pubic triangle. Believe it or not.
What a great name, in fairness.
Yeah, I couldn't help but bring that up. Galway want to end the practice of the county joining the minor race at the All-Ireland quarter-final round-robin stage, proposing that for the 2023 championship, Galway enter either Leinster or Munster, with the format to be determined by Central Council. I mean, I do want to see them in there. I can understand counties like, Laois, Offaly, Westmeath or whatever, like, it's tough enough for us without throwing them in there also. But I reckon if Galway go into Munster, it's only going to make Munster and Munster teams even stronger, which will kind of in some ways leave Leinster a little bit behind. So I think Leinster, for the greater good of the hurling in the province, should actually want Galway here.
Well, I think Leinster has benefited from Galway being in there. The Leinster Championship has been more competitive, and particularly when Kilkenny were probably coasting the Leinster titles, at least you had that big question mark about what Galway were going to produce on a given year. Now, they haven't won that many Leinster titles. What if they won? They won in 12, 17 and 18, am I right in saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, like, while some counties maybe will suffer as a result of it, in the sense of maybe it might be harder for Offaly to win it will be much harder for Offaly to win a Leinster minor title, shall we say, like they did last year if Galway are in there. But I think you have to think of, surely it will raise the standards and make things a lot more competitive and get teams up to another level. That's the way I'd be looking at it anyway. And
like, I would say that the Leinster Senior Championship at the moment, if it didn't have Galway, it would be an absolute wasteland. People are already far more interested in the Munster Championship than the Leinster Championship, if you're a neutral. And I'd say there's probably plenty of people in Leinster who prefer watching the Munster Championship as well. If Galway weren't there, I don't know what appeal there would be at all, because you just know that the 3 teams getting out would be obvious pretty much most years.
Yeah, and, aside from Wexford winning in 2019, like, Wexford and Dublin have been competitive, but they haven't, they're not probably winning nearly as much as they'd like. Kilkenny would have just been dominating if Galway hadn't been in most of the time, you'd imagine. And that intrigue wouldn't be there. Like, what's the point in a competition if you knew the 3 that were coming out beforehand? Like, the round robin wouldn't work in Leinster if it was Kilkenny, Dublin, Wexford, and we'll say 2 or 3 more where the 3 that are going to come out. So they definitely make it more. At least it's 4 into 3, and someone's going to miss out, And funny enough, like, Galway were the team that missed out in 2019, madly enough, even though they were beaten in the All-Ireland final the year before.
Yeah, and it was such an exciting last day. I was just thinking there off the top of my head, wouldn't it be great if there was even a wild card round in the Leinster and Munster Championships, that for the final game you will play one team from the other province or something like that for bonus points or something like that? It could be kind of cool, because I hate the fact that we've already got 3 championship seasons without seeing Tipperary against Kilkenny. What other sport in the world? Like, we had Arsenal against City last night. It was a bit of a disappointment because I hate seeing Pep Guardiola win. But imagine if you had to go 3 seasons without seeing Arsenal against City or Liverpool against Man United. That's what we're basically doing in the GAA. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's probably like in one sense it is crazy. Like, but then you're thinking back to even older structures and thinking that they mightn't have played each other for the potential that they mightn't have played each other for decades back. It's not going to be like that anymore. Each other every year. Does that familiarity take a bit of the gloss off, or is it the sort of fixture that you want to see every year? Because listen, I don't know. I like the provincial campaigns the way they are at the moment, I have to say, because at least you're seeing Tip and Limerick every year, you're seeing Tip and Clare every year, you're seeing Limerick and Clare every year, seeing those rivalries. I don't know, how are we going to do we in that case, are we going scrapping the league and turn it into a league championship where it starts in February or something like that? I don't know. Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of made my case on this before. Test cases, Shane, what do you think about Keane Lynch coming back from injury after missing the All-Ireland final? And he is back. I think he started against Clare. He did, yeah. No, he was really good. Got on the ball regularly, setting up chances, winning ball. I still think he looks, for his standards, he looks a little bit rusty, but still played exceptionally well, which is foreboding for the rest of the teams, to say the least. So huge for them to have him back. Gap between 1991 and 2002, Shane, yeah. And there was also a gap between, was it something like 71 and 89, something like that. There was crazy gaps. There was something like 18 years when typically Kenny didn't play. I mean, our championships shouldn't have that. One of the Cannings has taken over a Gaelic football team. That's an interesting story.
Yeah, an interesting one. So a member of the famous Canning clan from Portumna has been appointed manager of former Roscommon and Connacht club football champions Pádraig Pearses. So Frank Canning, brother of Ollie and Joe, takes over from Pat Flanagan, who stepped down after leading the Roscommon outfit to unprecedented success. So they won 2 senior football titles in a row in they won 2 and 3 years. They won in 19 and 21, and they obviously won that historic Connacht crown as well. So Canning managed Portumna to the last of their 4 All-Ireland titles in 2014, and his son Sean plays football and hurling with Pearses. So it's not out of the blue, shall we say. He's obviously living up around there. And by all accounts, his backroom team looks set to include former Laois star Ross Munley as well. So that's maybe him. He's obviously maybe doing bits and pieces up around DCU, but dipping his toes into club management, which would be interesting as well.
Back in 2014, the day that Donegal beat Dublin in the All-Ireland semi-final, we played a challenge match against Portumna, this is Wakula, against Portumna in Pádraig Pearses, actually. Just as you mentioned that, and I see Portumna and it all written on the one page there, reminded me of it. By the way, we're launching the live GAA club fundraisers at OurGame, so we will come to your club. You're looking at quizzes, fun challenges, local legends, celebrity guests, the whole lot, and it's going to be a great opportunity for you to raise huge money for your club for the entirety of the year. If you want to get details on that, as you can see in the bottom left corner, events@ourgame.ie, send us an email and we'll talk to you about how we'll do that, because every club needs to raise their big cash for the year for their team expenses, whatever it might be, building, I don't know, extensions on the old pavilion, whatever it might be, and this is the place to get it sorted.
Yeah, it's so difficult to raise funds now, and people go about it different ways, but we will come to your club and we'll raise a huge amount of money in, one kind of jam-packed, action-packed night. Great crack, as you say, celebrity guests, quizzes, fun challenges, local legends. The stories will be flying, it'll be unfiltered, unscripted, unedited. It'll be a great night with huge funds raised for your club that can, help with, as you said, developments within the club, get all your gear and resources sorted for the year, all that kind of crack, and it'd be a night that'll never be forgotten as well.
Yeah, and it won't be filmed either, and we'll be asking people not to film, so it'll be, things will be getting hot and heavy. It'll be a right bit of crack there. So, Patrick Coleman, Tip could barely win a game in Munster in the late 70s, early 80s. If there was all play, all Tip would not get the top 3 in that time. A wildcard game, Shane, last year with Westmeath beating Tip would have been great. P-Well 74 is driving the boot in there. Offaly under 20 winner Cathal Donoghue, he's switching to Galway side Uachtarard.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. He's obviously in college. He won a Sigerson Cup last year with his cousin Matthew Tierney, and now he's transferring to Uachtarard, where Matthew Tierney is from, and he's going to kick football with them as well. He'd be from the Kilcormac club. Would be a dual club, obviously, but their focus, main focus wouldn't be football. So, he's obviously going to be stationed down in Galway for a while now. Seriously talented player. Was man of the match in the All-Ireland under-20 final in 2021. A really, really good player. Not involved with Liam Kearns' squad at the moment. And I'm not sure kind of what's going on there at the moment, but a seriously talented footballer. And obviously he's going to play his trade in Galway now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, the GAA is set to introduce card payments at some venues amid the row over its contentious new ticket policies. It's kind of like, the way the banks just tried to recently go, and close a load of the ATMs and the impact that would have on people, especially older people as well, who are used to dealing with cash and want to deal with cash. And some people, irrespective of age, want that. Sometimes it's just a little bit too quick. You probably have to go with a hybrid model for a couple of years before you can move to like, I don't know, ordering online only. Give people a chance to get used to it, because some people are not comfortable using smartphones, or don't have a laptop or an iPad or whatever it might be. So I just think sometimes people try to drive these things through a bit too quickly, and it's very uncomfortable for some people.
I think something like this, you need to phase it in. Like my parents only recently got smartphones. Like they hadn't a Breeze, like they just had the old Nokia flip phone, like, and you're trying to order a ticket for them, maybe for a match that you're playing in, and you're like, how are they going to get in? So one time I had to give my mother my phone and keep the screen opened and have the ticket on the screen, because otherwise she wouldn't know what to do. Like, it's mad kind of scenarios. And I don't know, I think it's totally ageist against older people who have, since the dawn of time, they've been going to games, and their parents or mother or father or their uncle or whoever paid them in, and then they brought their few quid and they paid in. And obviously cash, like, it's one thing, taking cash off the turnstiles, but to make it so that you can't like tap a card or something, like, it's bananas, really. Like, only the people put their hands up and yelled stop when AIB went with all this, where there was going to be no tellers or no anybody in the shops anymore. They decided to roll back on it. And I don't know, I think the GA just went like, we're stamping this out completely. And I can understand with with cash, because it's maybe harder to account for or whatever. With a card and a tap machine, it's there. There's going to be records. There's going to be receipts. Like, so I think it should.
You to hire fewer people if you just have people buy in beforehand tickets, and then you just have people checking the tickets. You don't have to pay people to work as tellers.
Yeah, I totally understand that. But you're also, you maybe have to hire less people, but you're also like closing the doors on some people and making it really, really, like, I wouldn't say I'm a technophobe, but I wouldn't be that technologically savvy. And that's just me. I'd have a clue what's going on. Imagine an older person. Imagine genuinely the stress of, I want to go and see a game, but because I didn't plan like a day in advance or didn't buy my ticket, I can't just land to the gate now. Do you know, it makes it that, like, I don't know about you, but I've often been driving past places and they're like, oh Jesus, there's a game on in there, and you just drop in or whatever. But now it kind of takes that element of spontaneity out of it as well, almost, which I don't like.
Yeah, so there's going to be a new GAA president elected. The 41st president will be either Jarlath Burns of Armagh, Niall Erskine of Donegal, or Pat Tehan of Offaly, a man you probably know quite well. And you spoke with Niall Erskine this week, and I think most people have seen Jarlath Burns being covered, somewhere in the media in the last few weeks as well. But I think to most people in the GAA world, this is something that they're not too bothered about.
Nah, probably not something. It's like they don't come in straight away. They're Uachtaráin Tuffa. They basically serve a year getting ready for their term or getting ready for their reign. Just thinking as well, when I was chatting to Niall Erskine yesterday, wouldn't it be unbelievable, like, if you were, coming in as a manager and you knew you were coming in a year's time and you could have all your plans in place or whatever, you have all your management team in a year to get everything ready. So essentially, like, whichever of the three is elected tomorrow night, the year as Uachtaráin Tuffa is probably the most important year. It's where you go and have all your committee people in place and basically have everything ready to go. You just press the green button and go when you take over as president. From what I'm hearing, this is going to be a really, really tightly run race, and particularly between Jarlath Burns, who was obviously edged out on like transfers. I think the last time with Larry McCarthy, like, he was leading the whole way until the last batch of transfers. And I hear it's pretty tight between Burns and Tehan, so it'll be interesting. But as you say, when they don't start until this time next year, it's not something that's happening here and now, shall we say. And Larry McCarthy obviously still has another year to serve.
And interesting, as you mentioned Larry McCarthy, I saw a photo of him with Billy Morgan, who was his teacher at school. And Billy Morgan is involved in the Sigerson Cup win for UCC there last night. After extra time, they beat UL 116 to 16 points. The ripe old age of 78, Billy Morgan is. 4 as a manager, 2 as a player. What a man. Still going.
It's unbelievable, really, when you think about it. I think he has 6 Sigerson Cups now, 4 as manager, 2 as a player. Like, Billy has a lot of like unique records. Obviously, he's won All Irelands as a player and a manager as well. And it's just like, I think probably the Sigerson Cup or the Fitzgibbon Cup, maybe like Eamon Cregan was still going with Mary I when they eventually got over the line. Obviously was, elderly enough at the time or whatever, but it kind of, the structure of the competition, obviously you don't have to go for 9 months maybe of an inter-county campaign. It's, it's a couple of months, probably not too many training sessions and more kind of organisation around it, but some achievement for him. And then just got us thinking as well then about like different guys who have done it into their 70s. I think like Miko was either 69 or 70 when he took over in Wicklow, making the trip from Kerry to Wicklow. And I think he'd 5 seasons with them.
He was with Clare after it though.
Yeah, he was with Clare after as well. Yeah, I think they won a Tommy Murphy when he was with Wicklow and had a couple of good runs in the qualifiers. Brian Cody was obviously 68 when he hung up the Glanbia hat last year. And he's obviously getting back involved with the village again. He's taken over there as manager, so there's no sign of him slowing down. Anybody else that stands out to you? Like it's amazing. And can I just say, and you're involved with teams and that now, and I will be in time as well. It's unbelievable, like to think, like in 40 years' time, if me and you were still kind of patrolling the sideline, like it'd be deadly. And I hope that is the case. And it's just the energy that these boys have and the passion for it. A lot of lads know nothing, only hurling or football, and they'll just stay doing it until they literally cannot do it anymore, because I suppose it just re-energizes them, breathes life into them.
Yeah, and it's an addiction as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like everyone's home parish or home club. They know lads who've been part of the furniture for 70 years, and it's not going to change. I'm trying to think of remember when what's the name of the centre back, Warnock for Glen? He was talking about, was it his grandparent or something like that, who was involved in the club for donkey's years as well. Mickey Whelan is somebody who comes to mind. Former player, and won a Dublin championship with Clonagale in 1968. 50 years later, he's involved with the Dublin Hurlers. There's lads like that. I'm sure people out there who are watching the show at the moment, or if they're watching after it's live, they can comment in with names of, I suppose, golden oldies in a way that just can't hang up the whistle or the Banish door bib or whatever it might be. Great win, by the way, for UCC against UL. 2 years in a row now, UL have come up short in the final. Yeah,
my old alma mater, and they've never won one. They couldn't win it with Clifford last year. Were edged out on a horrible night by NUIG, and it was kind of similar last night. Conditions weren't great. UCC got I don't know what the word is to use, a soft enough goal at the start anyway. Got them off to a great start. Like, if you looked at the talent that UL had at their disposal, I think there was it 5? It was 5 Clare players, and you have Owen McLaughlin in there as well, the Young Footballer of the Year, Jack Glynn. There was actually an interesting one. There was 2 Anascal teammates facing off last night. The Kerry club obviously facing off, and I think they would have come in direct opposition to each other, because one was a forward and one was a back. But huge win for UCC. I think it was their 25th Sigerson Cup, their well clear second Roll of Honour, and UL unfortunately are still waiting for that first one, beating 2 finals in a row now, but obviously edging closer each time, but disappointing. And obviously it went extra time last night as well, which makes it probably even a harder one to swallow.
Yeah. What's our next segment there?
The next segment is we talked about the Sigerson Cup, we talked about the Golden Oldies, and you wanted to show a clip of Owen Breslan from the coaching clinic last weekend, which was brilliant by all accounts. Hugely successful one. And Owen Breslan talking through a tackling drill, I believe the genesis of which may have come from the one and only Paul Kinnerk.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
If you think about it, like.
Does it make sense?
You're staying the right side.
Can you understand why we're doing it?
You're staying with him as well.
Is it something that you had thought of, like, as guards before?
No.
The reasoning behind it?
You're taking a step back with him, aren't you? Because then you're, wouldn't have thought about that.
The biggest problem before would have been, I'm a big man, I'm not that there's no way he's going past me. Yes. What you actually want to do is, the most frees come out of the more aggressive tackles. So you the ball, I'm coming in hard. Free. Well, what you're doing is trying to fool him and fool the referee. From point of view, he's coming at me. Right, I'm stopping and going back with him. So I'm playing. Play it. But I'm going back with him. I'm not instant tackling him. Or I'm not instant putting him back in the door. I need to get the ball off. And 9 times out of 10, actually, my job is, as a cornerback or a wing back or whatever it is to slow you down, and the second man comes in and takes the ball off.
Okay, and as I said, we've got a couple of more coaching clinics coming up. We've got one in Piltown, County Kilkenny, with Barry Hennessy, Pádraig Mahoney, and Richie Power. You can get tickets on the links which are in the video description. And then also Michael Fennelly, Brick Walsh, and Pat Ryan. They're going to be in Valley Rovers in Cork, which is March 11 to 11 a.m. So those are two serious shows coming up.
Brilliant, yeah. Serious quality of coach on show as well. I can tell you categorically that Owen Brazan did not want to let anyone around him when he was player, and he loved that. He loved that physical approach. But hurling has changed now, and you have to be so smart in the tackle. Like you can't. I see it a lot at club level in particular. You're giving the referee a chance to blow the whistle. Do you know what I mean? You're just, a lot of the time if you make a guy play it, you'd say, if he's able to beat you and he'd go around you or throw a sidestep, fair enough or whatever, but make him beat you. Don't just give him the handy option. And there's nothing worse than, in a big championship game, giving the opposition, 8 or 9 frees. It's killer. Like if you're able to minimize that to, maybe between 5 or 6 scoreable frees, like particularly with the strike of a ball now, you're really giving yourself a live chance. So it's not like reducing the physicality or anything like that. It's just being a lot smarter in your tackling. Don't make that lazy foul. Don't put that arm in around the neck that's going to allow a lad to do the kind of the Paddy Maher trick and allow the referee to blow the whistle. So yeah, really
the Keane Penny arms up as soon as anyone goes near him.
Yeah,
the 2 arms going up in the air.
You know something? I think referees are cottoning on to that a lot more now as well, and they realise that lads are literally just trying to buy the frees, and unless it's blatantly obvious and the hurl goes around the neck, that they're actually at some of the time they're allowing the play to go on now.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to see the full video of Owen Brazan, it's at patreon.com/OurGame. You get Colin Spillane and Eddie Brennan as well on there. We wanted to talk about the top 5 hurlers, the top 5 youngsters in hurling at the moment. And do you know what? As we ever like to do, we're going to bring it up on screen and do a bit of a ranking. But we do expect the viewers to get involved, as they tend to do, and let us know who do they think the best youngsters are in the country at the moment and who should be in the top 5 in this list. Anyone that you're thinking cannot be left out of this?
Can't be left off the top. Will we fly through a few different counties and just see what we're working off here? Yeah,
okay.
So like you've your finger on the pulse in the scene in Dublin. Who are we talking here? The likes of Paddy Doyle. Who else are we talking?
Yeah, Paddy Doyle, like he's very young, but you can, and like I watched him last weekend in a few challenge matches, but you can see straight away he's able to get out in front, he's able to win ball. Yeah, I mean, he's young and inexperienced, so now and again he gifts it away or does something a little bit rash, but very, very good. And I've seen him with DCU as well. He's excellent. Dara Purcell, who I managed with the UCD Freshers last year, and he's been very good with Crokes. Excellent player. Only came on the other day against Antrim and quite late on, so he didn't really make an impact. Diarmuid O'Dooling, who also didn't come on the other day, I saw him even in the Walsh Cup against Galway, and just the 2 or 3 balls that he was giving in, he just looks like an electric player. So
he's still in Nave Owen. He played in the Leinster Colleges semi-final for Nave Owen against Kieran's. Like that's how young he is, like a real precocious talent. Yeah.
Then in Kilkenny, Billy Drennan's the obvious one. But Pádraig Moylan, maybe Garrod Dunn, I'd be interested to see if he gets more game time. Killian Doyle, Ian Byrne, Aidan Tallis. Anyone from other counties that you're thinking of off the top of your head?
Yeah, probably. Like if you're looking at, I think it's funny, as good as Limerick are, and how the same, it's largely been the same personnel, 18 or 19 that have come in. It definitely is a big freshness to their squad this year, isn't there? Like if you look at the young talent that's in there now, maybe that wasn't there before. Donegal O'Donnell would be one. He obviously got a goal the other night. He came on and got a point, didn't he, against Cork, bringing his more lean form, obviously managed by Owen Brazan and the lads, bringing that straight to county. I thought for a young fella, Shane O'Brien was really able to handle himself the other night. Like when he fills out, like he's going to be some bull of a man.
He's fairly filled out as it is.
Yeah, but like naturally, like you'd say, when he gets to 23 or something like that, like he could be an absolute tank. Like he could be impossible to handle. Adam English is another one. I really liked his role the other night. To me, he's a ball player, and yes, he's a very good forward, but he was able to find space the other night, and he was able to work really, really hard in that engine room. I'd say he wasn't probably an option that John Kiley had thought of for in around there, and he
didn't get on the ball against Cork either when he was waiting on the inside looking for a ball to come in. So I'd say he enjoyed being out in the thick of it.
Oh, he did, yeah, and he excelled and obviously delivered that brilliant pass to O'Donnell for his goal. Fergal O'Connor went off with a head knock the other day. I think he's a really exciting player. He's obviously full back for the 20s last year. Day before on a Limerick side, how much game time did they see? They probably won't see as much maybe in another county just because of how competitive it is. But like, we fly down through Munster, like in Waterford as well.
By the way, sorry, just before I jump on, Richard Hogan says, how young under 20? Well, it's players who are probably under the age of 21, 22, who haven't really made an impact. And I'd say in terms of our rankings, we'll be like, which players will actually be making a serious impact this weekend. So, for example, you might have Shane O'Brien or Adam English as number 1 in some respects, but will they necessarily be playing this year? So they might drop down the ranking because we mightn't necessarily think they'll start. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you kind of have to. There's a bit of looking into the future here, how much game time they'll actually get. From a Cork point of view, obviously, Sean Toomey got 2 goals the other day. Owen Downey looks like he's a ready-made fullback almost. Pat Ryan, we kind of asked him, like, is it a sense of throwing Owen Downey into the deep end? And he said no. He said he was called into the under-20s while still a minor, and if he'd been, I think he was ineligible to play, but if he'd been eligible to play, they would have played him. Ben O'Connor's another one. We don't really know what he's doing yet or what his future holds, but he's like, if you knew he was going to be in with Cork, he'd definitely be in my top 5. We just don't know yet, and he's obviously playing. I think he's playing senior schools rugby in Cork this year as well. And Fintan mentioned it on the show the other day. Like, I think there's a fair potential we could have a problem as journalists and even as supporters in years to come with Pádraig Fitzgerald and Patrick Fitzgerald in Waterford. I'm just trying to think, is there any sort of a name you can come up for them? I'm kind of making a little link on their name or something to do with, remember they had the terrible twins in Galway, and even with Sean Armstrong and Michael Meehan when they went under 21 as well. Just thinking, is there some Fitz and starts or something? I don't know. I'm not sure. Not sure what to look at.
Yeah, it's not a decent first effort. Did you mention Ruben Halloran? He's another lad who could make an impact this year. John Campion with Tip, maybe Rhys Shelley, but Barry Hogan will obviously be battling it out for number 1 jersey there. In Clare, Davy Conroy is a guy who scored 5 points against Westmeath. I suppose a lot of their younger players struggled against Limerick. Jack Gallagher, you were mentioning in Westmeath. Oisin Salmon, I know he got red carded the other day, but obviously Henry Shefflin likes to cut his jib. So Brian O'Mara from Tip, outstanding UL and a natural centre-back. Now, to be fair, if he does make an impact this year, like he is a pretty young player, but he's probably just slightly too old, I think. I think he's probably about 24 at this stage, but it would be his breakout year, actually.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, do we need to jig it a small bit? Maybe lads that haven't made an impact at county level yet, or maybe it's just like, is this his first year in a county senior squad?
No. So he was in the panel previously. He was there last year. Sorry, last year he opted out altogether. The year before he played league for Tip, and then he broke his arm, which probably, kind of ruined his chances. So I'd say he's probably about 24 at this stage. That'd be my guess. Yeah, he was an All-Ireland minor winner in 2016. So that would suggest he's 23 or 24. Yeah. So in some ways he fits this, but in other ways he doesn't. Whereas I'd be more looking at John Campion because he's quite young. I think he'd be more suited to this conversation.
Yeah, I think you're probably looking at in or around under 20 and guys that haven't, really played county at all yet up until this point. Are we, like, if we're looking at this top 5, who are we thinking?
Like Mike Houlihan, I don't think would fit in this conversation.
No.
Patrick Coleman's mentioned.
No, he wouldn't, in fairness.
So I would say that Sean Toomey is somebody that would be high up on the list, and I'd say Pádraig Fitzgerald seems to be getting a little bit more game time than Patrick Fitzgerald at the moment.
In time, though, who do you think is going to see more game time?
Probably Pádraig, yeah.
Pádraig over Patrick?
Wait, no, I confused him there, Patrick, yeah. The Ballygunner lad.
If you're looking at guys that are definitely going to be in the 5, like in no particular order at the moment, I definitely have Patrick Fitzgerald in there.
Billy Drennan will definitely be playing for Kilkenny this year, will he?
Billy Drennan will play for Kilkenny, yeah, without a doubt.
Paddy Doyle, I think, will definitely play for Dublin.
I think Owen Downey definitely deserves to be in there too. And which of the, Shane O'Brien will play for Limerick this year. Don't know if he'll start a championship game, but he'll definitely play. I'd probably have Shane O'Brien slightly ahead of Adam English, if I'm honest.
It's an interesting one. Like, we've left Cathal O'Neill out of this because he's already kind of made an impact already.
Yeah.
And surely both Kevin and Mikey Mahoney get game time at Waterford, but I'm not entirely sure how old Mikey is, but I think Kevin is probably 22 or 3, is he?
Yeah, I did be just a bit beyond the threshold, I'd say, as well,
Yeah. Okay, so who do you think is most likely to make a big impact this year? I would say Billy Drennan.
Well, it's like this. I'd say he's a guaranteed starter. Well, is he guaranteed either?
Well, I think so. Okay, I'm going to throw him in as number 1 just as a holder there for the moment, a placeholder. Like, if you're to pick that Kilkenny forward line this year, right, so you're going to have Adrian Mullen. Now, he might actually be midfield, and they might actually move him out there to accommodate. But so he'll be playing TJ, Owen Cody. Who else will be starting in that forward line? Mossy Keown.
You could have Walter. You could have Mossy Keown. You could have, who else are we talking here? You could have Richie Hogan potentially. You could have John Donnelly potentially. Billy
Ryan is in the conversation. Keane Kenny, although he might go back out midfield.
Yeah. Will Billy start? Like, do they have that type of inside forward? I'd say he probably will start. Now, Nicky Brennan was on the show a couple of weeks ago and kind of said that he thinks that maybe he'll need to be around the squad for a bit longer, and kind of pointed to the fact that he's playing junior club hurling, that he need time to be exposed to that level. So, like, I put it this way, Shane. He's best known, like, one of his best attributes is probably free taking at the moment. There's no point in saying any different. Like, they have probably the best free taker in the country. So does that take? Is he going to be able to contribute enough?
What, Jason Ford has gone to Kilkenny?
Do you think so?
I'm joking. It's a good conversation. We'll keep that conversation for another day. Yeah.
I wonder then when push comes to shove, will Billy start come summer? I'm not so sure.
I'd say he will. I know not Liam McCarthy, but Screeney with Offaly will be a huge success this year. Adam Screeney is surely too young, is he?
Oh yeah, I know he won't be near a county senior squad anyway. They're actually an interesting one. Kalash and Nave Cormac are playing St Brendan's Burr in the college's B final tomorrow, and to the best of my knowledge, it's the first time anyone would have ever had a chance to win Leinster College's A and B medals in the same year. So a heap of the Kilcormac lads, James Matton, Screeney, Breckin Kavanagh, Alex Kavanagh, Lee Kavanagh, all those lads with Kilcormac, and Ben Miller and Owen Burke and a few more with Burr. So that'll be an interesting game tomorrow.
Okay, so I put Billy Drennan in as number 1 here, all the same, right? I'm thinking Paddy Doyle for Dublin might make a real impact this year. Even though Dublin have so many injuries, I think it's going to be tough for them to have a particularly strong year.
Can I ask you? Can I throw a question into the mix here? Right?
Yeah.
This is a genuine question. Like, who will be able to look after themselves at senior intercounty level? Like now, this year, who would survive in the Shark Tank that is Championship hurling as a young fella? And I think Shane O'Brien physically will sort of definitely survive this year, and I think he'll thrive in time.
I'd say Adam English would survive as well. Paddy Doyle, even though he's a bit leaner, and I definitely see him starting. That's the other thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So who would you want as number 2 here?
I'd want Shane O'Brien fairly high up.
Okay, but I don't see him starting for Limerick at all this year.
Yeah, okay, but he could still make a massive impact off the bench.
Yeah, but like they could be winning some games by 15 points. He might come in and score 4, but has he really kind of changed the game?
Okay, I understand where you're coming from, but you have to, like, the team or the squad that he's coming into is at a higher level than the rest. So a byproduct of that is that he's at a higher level than the rest.
Yeah, but we said like making an impact this year, like that they might be a better player or whatever, but will they make an impact this year because maybe they won't get the game time? I
know you're saying that they might be up by 15 points or whatever, but there could also be a very tight game where he comes in and gets a score. And I'd rate that as high, if not higher than, would say, Billy Drennan starting and finishing a championship game and ending up with 2 from play.
But they've got Peter Casey and Keane Lynch back in the forward line, and they still won the All-Ireland last year. Where is a young lad going to fit into the mix?
Well, like, where did Cathal O'Neill fit in last year? There's
But
always
that's the thing. Like, Cathal O'Neill is going to be ahead in the pecking order of these lads as well. Now, the only thing is, if Aaron Gillan isn't there, it does open up the door for Shane O'Brien. So I'm sort of, fighting against my own point here now all of a sudden.
I have to have him in the 5 anyway.
Okay. Right. So is there anyone that you'd have ahead of him?
I haven't, I'll be straight with you now, I haven't seen enough of Paddy Doyle. So I just haven't seen enough of him to know how he'll go, how he'll go at that level. But he will. It sounds
will you
like
trust
he
me
will
on
play.
that one? Will you trust me on that one?
Yeah, but I wouldn't have him at 2 now.
Okay, where would you accept?
3, 4-ish.
Okay, I'll put 4. Shane O'Brien then, because I think he'll play less than Paddy Doyle, I'd be more inclined to have him as number 5.
Here's one for you. Does Patrick Fitzgerald start for Waterford?
Where? And ahead of who?
The interesting one is
Desi Hutchinson?
No, he's not going to play ahead of him, but you definitely could see the two of them playing inside, even though maybe at county level. It's an interesting one. A lot of it comes back to what way does Davy play? Because if he plays with a sweeper and you're playing 2 inside and you need workers, the 2 boys are workers, but you probably need... Do you need one big, one small almost? Do you need that? Do you need a Mikey Kiley and a Desi Hutchinson inside?
Yeah, like, I don't really see him start. I still think he can have an impact and he'll be one of the first lads in. But like Ruben Holleran, I think is probably more likely to see significant game time.
Out in the half line, basically. Yeah. He has a bit of more flexibility, maybe.
But like, I would say Owen Downey or Sean Toomey would probably be a little bit further up in the pecking order here.
Well, Owen Downey looks to have, in his 2 games so far, he looks to have nailed down that number 3 spot, and he's kind of relegated his brother Rob to the substitute bench at the moment. Now, that could change, but he does, in the couple of games I've seen, he just looks like a bit of an old hand in there, to be honest with you. He's got that real kind of miserable streak in him where he doesn't want to give anything away.
God, you love a player being miserable, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I was actually chatting to Drew Wiley the other day, who retired from Monaghan, and I just love chatting like fullbacks and cornerbacks about like how you have to have that miserable streak in you to want to do what a fullback and a cornerback has to do. Let me see. I would definitely be having Patrick Fitzgerald in the top 5, and I'd probably have him in instead of John Campion.
Wow. Your anti-tip bias.
Well, no, hold on a second. Is John Campion going to start championship for Tipperary?
Well, I'm wondering now, because with the injuries and with Paddy Cadell gone and with Niall O'Meara out for a while longer, another option in the sort of middle of the field, mid-late or whatever. I don't know. It's very hard to pick the Tipperary team at the moment.
Just going through a few others. So you have Dermot O'Dooling, not sure how much he'll play. You have Donegal Dalek from Limerick. Again, not sure how much he's going to play. Just from, like, I'll put it this way. Just even from watching Ballygunner, regularly, what I've seen of Patrick Fitzgerald, he'll start senior championship this year at some stage, definitely.
Okay, would you be happy to go with this list then?
I love the way, like, in the research document, you've called him Paddy Fitzgerald, which I've never referred to. No one has ever referred to him. Now you're calling him Pat Fitzgerald. And I know it's just to fit it in. I know that.
It is just to fit it in, so it doesn't mess all the formatting. Are you happy enough with that?
Billy
in that order?
Owen Downey, Pat Fitzgerald. I'd be happy enough with that, yeah. Yeah,
because I think Drennan's definitely going to start. I think Downey, all signs are that he will start. Pat Fitzgerald will see significant game time. I think Paddy Doyle, Pat. I think Paddy Doyle will definitely start, and Shane O'Brien will make a serious impact. Now, maybe Adam English or, we have Michael McCarthy saying Kieran Joyce is still only 21, but already started. So, that's why he's outside. Yeah.
Nominated for Young Hurler of the Year last year, do you know what I mean? So, like, he's well in the public consciousness at this stage.
Yeah, okay. So keep
fair
the comments
list.
It is a fair list. Keep the comments coming in.
Here, go on. We'll have a little, like a €2 side bet here. So right. Who of the 5 do you think will have the biggest impact this year? And I know that's maybe hard to say, tangible. What's an impact? But you give your 2 cents and I'll give mine. And we'll throw 2 bob on the line, and we'll be the fans, the spectators can be the jury at the end of the year.
Yeah, I'd say Billy Drennan probably will, because Kilkenny will get out of Leinster. He'll probably play every game. Young player. I'd say Billy Drennan. Yeah.
I give the list. Pull up the list again. I'm gonna go.
And by the way, Leinster is that bit handier than Munster, so it'd actually be tougher for Patrick Fitzgerald to make an impact than it, potentially would be for Drennan or Owen Downey.
Yeah, I'll go with Owen Downey. Yeah, because God, he's going to be coming up against some of the big hitters, isn't he, this year?
He sure is. That's like, it's kind of early in the year. You don't necessarily know if he will be starting. Whereas I think we're pretty confident that Drennan will see serious game time in the championship. Okay, so I have a little clip here from Kevin Moran, who we were chatting to just a little bit earlier in the week. Give me 1 second. I'll bring that clip up here. Here he is talking about Davies' return, the man behind the wire, as we all saw the last few weeks, and hopes for 2023. Thoughts on Waterford, now that you're kind of as a spectator watching in, was there a period where it was like tough for you to go to games because you kind of still felt that sort of, fire in your belly in terms of playing, or were you totally okay and divorced from it straight away?
I know, I'll be honest, Shane, I was fine now. I really was. My last year involved, it was, I think I knew the writing was on the wall in what was it, 2021, just looking back on it. It was just an easy year to go back in because the way it happened with the pandemic, we got to the All-Ireland final and it was in December and we were back training kind of the month later. So it was fine. But, I kind of knew that I was, it was my last kind of year anyway. So it's, and the last year then was fine. The team has changed and got a good old buzz off going seeing the lads and win the league. And unfortunately then it just didn't materialise for them going into the summer months. It was, it was disappointing for everybody, but more so than anybody, the management and the players, to go from such highs to such lows. And yeah, look, I'm enjoying. I've went to the first match of the league then under Davies' second regime. So it's there's good excitement but look, I'm looking at it now from a pure supporter's point of view, and I am enjoying it, yeah.
So you're not that man behind the goals giving instructions to the keeper, are you?
No, I'm not. I don't know who he is. He's one of Davies' lads, but look, Christ, there's some ordeal made about him in fairness. But look, I think Davy was asked about it after the Laois game and I thought he answered it brilliantly. So you need something to talk about in fairness.
Yeah, and like you were there with Davy before when he was manager of Waterford in his first stint. Were you surprised to see him take over, and have you felt it's been a good appointment?
I wasn't surprised. No, I think it was. In fairness, I think it was a great appointment. Liam and Mikey Bevins did a super job with Waterford, and look, it fell a little bit flat in its face towards the end, which was disappointing. But I think Dave was the perfect fit then to come in and just re-galvanise, re-energise the lads. There didn't need to be a huge amount of change. I think everyone knows that, and the players were there was no need for a big a colour or anything like that, and bringing in a whole new load of fresh faces. But I think Davey's done it well. He's a good nucleus of players, and now he is after kind of finding kind of 2 or 3 lads that we thought were good players, under 20 players, and the likes of Patrick Fitzgerald and Patrick Fitzgerald and even Ruben from our own club. It's great to see them in, and they're well able for it, and they're you need that mix, and I think he's after assembling a nice little panel there. So it's all positive looks, but it's early days, Shane. It's bigger and tougher tasks ahead, but look, hopefully we can get out of Munster and see what happens from then.
Have you changed your mind on Tip getting out of Munster?
Probably would have had a bit. The injuries are worrying, You know what I think of Cottle Barrett, and I just think he's so dynamic, that cornerback, and he's just real fiery type of player that's able to shut down and one of the best opposition attackers. That would definitely have a little bit of a play in it, and even Niall O'Mara with his experience to come back doesn't look like he's going to be under pressure now as well. So, do you know what? I probably have, and sure, it was the same at Waterford in 2020. Wasn't there a heap of injuries? Wasn't Pádraig Mahoney out? Wasn't that only a couple of weeks before Championship started that was a challenge game, wasn't it, on the eve of the Cork game? And I think it's I think when your mentality is shifted and when a management team comes in and you just buy in and you go all in, I think you're able to absorb potentially some losses as well. Now, listen, those injuries are probably at the right time. Like Cadell's obviously not, but Carl Barrett's where the chance he actually has to come back if they go on a bit of a run. I probably need to see a little bit more, and I need to see probably Waterford in the flesh as well. Seeing Cork in the flesh, seeing Limerick in the flesh. You just need to judge with your own eyes maybe first.
Yeah, so SETU Waterford are against UL in the Fitzgibbon Cup semi-final tonight against UL. Fullback TJ Brennan, Brian O'Mara at 6, Colin Coughlin, Sean Toomey, Mikey Kiley. That's a serious UL team. They're going to be hard stopped. Waterford, Dave Rubin Halloran leading the line. Sean Walsh is another very able assistant as well. University of Galway are against UCC. So Pádraig Power, he's obviously a very good player for UCC. They also have the likes of Brian Hayes, Shane Barrett, Conor Cahalan. Galway, Evan Nyland will be leading the line there. He's obviously continuing to rack up big scores for them as well. The Ryan Cup semi-finals, they're also on. TU Dublin are against Ulster University and MIC Thurles are against Trinity as well. Geez, MIC Thurles have a serious team with Desi Hutchinson in the forward line along with Aaron Dunphy of Laois and Shane Walsh from Kilkenny. Hurling League this weekend, Meath will meet Donegal. Meath looking to win a third game in a row. And you've already mentioned the All-Offaly battle in the Leinster Colleges final as well, which, after your minor team won the Leinster Colleges A, you're going to get more success in the B.
I tell you something, you take all the success you can get. The more titles those lads get and the more exposure to get to high-level hurling, the better. Just want to see a quick tweet here, Shane, just going through Billy Morgan's managerial honours. 4 by All-Ireland club football titles with Nemo, 9 Munster club titles, 11 Cork senior football titles, 8 Munster titles with Cork, 2 All-Irelands with Cork, and 4 Sigerson Cups. Like, now unbelievable haul, just as a manager. That's not even taking in his what he won as a player. It's phenomenal, really. Fair play to him. The skull and crossbones, I still reckon it's probably the nicest jersey out there. Just absolutely iconic.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find an article that I did it in months. Yeah, 1979, he was playing goals for Nemo Rangers against Scottstown in the All-Ireland Club final at Croke Park. And he goes, "It was so cold that myself and Frank Hogan had a bottle of brandy and we took a sip each before we went out. I don't even know if Denny Allen even drank at the time, but he said, give me a sup of that. We came in, we had a sup at half-time too. There were times in that game that I could hardly see the other goals because of the blizzard, but we won that and comfortably in the end." And so, different days. You're not really going to be bringing out a shot of brandy, are you, these days?
I tell you something. There's been some mad things done over the years. I'd say during atrocious days. I don't know if it's appropriate to say it, but I definitely know of a couple of lads who rather than under like a horribly miserably cold day, rather than going to the toilet in the bushes, decided to go to the toilet just there and then. Just it's like Harry and Dumb and Dumber. Just go, man.
Charming. Mayo against Kerry this Saturday. I think this will be a pretty entertaining match. Mayo don't have a great record against teams that are managed by Jack O'Connor with Kerry.
They have an awful record.
Yeah.
Like atrocious. Couple of All-Ireland finals, 04 and 05. Then in the second round, they beat them regularly again. Did they beat them 3 times last year, including the All-Ireland quarter-final? Like, it's a horrible record. Like, I'm not saying it's just unique, I suppose, maybe, that he's really had the upper hand on them. And they're obviously both on 2 points coming into the weekend. Kerry had a real good second half against Monaghan. Mayo have been, thoroughly entertaining in the 2 games so far. You'd have to say that 2-8 to 1-11 draw against Galway and then 17 points apiece against Armagh. I think both would love to get more points on the board and just be closer towards safety. I don't think Kerry are looking at a league title this year. Like, I just think they're trying to survive in Division 1, if you get me. And I think Kevin McStay would be something similar with Mayo, given the amount of new faces he's trying out.
Yeah, we were talking to, actually, with our weekly Poacher and Varley show, which you can see every Wednesday evening. Varley, who of course is a former St. Vincent's club player, he got on Gerard Brennan and they had a bit of a chat about Dublin and some of the other runners and riders for the All-Ireland Championship this year. So very interesting conversation. I'll just play a little segment here.
The team in transition as well. Not particularly exciting to have watched them against Kildare, and I didn't see any of the Limerick game. Probably the first time Dublin weren't on the Sunday game, and God knows how long. There's a question for for some of the researchers there to see when was the last time Dublin weren't featured on a Sunday or the Saturday game, wherever it was. I think it was a Sunday. But Dublin are trying out a few new players as well, and Division 2 is the opportunity for them to.
Anyone taking your fancy actually, Ger? I know Sean Lowry got a run actually from Vincent's.
Sean got a run from Vincent's. I guess Dublin supporters will have to be patient and lower their expectations of what's coming through. Again, you're very committed players looking to and extremely hungry to represent their county. But in terms of God-given talent, it's just not the same as the cohort that kind of came before that we've already spoken about. So Dublin have a bit of work to do. I think if we can keep some of our key players fit, and particularly up front, if we can get Paul Mannion back playing well, up to speed, able to manage the inter-county load, and put a bit of cotton wool around Conor Collin as well, you certainly have a chance. I think generally the standard of football, I thought the last couple of championships, the standard of football probably wasn't of a great standard in comparison to previous years, you know.
So is that why do you think it's gone? It's more competitive now, Charles. In December,
it's more competitive.
Yeah, it's more competitive. It's better to watch. I know the standard could be dropped, but
yeah, I would say, and again, my Dublin arrogance. Not so much that the pack has gotten closer to Dublin. I think Dublin have fallen towards the pack, just with the natural qualities coming through. So
lads throwing something at this screen here.
Yeah, they can throw something at the screen all they want. But Kerry without David Clifford last year would have been fecked, and I think that if Conor Collin had been fit for the semi-final, we would have been fine. You know, I think we would have bet Kerry.
Oh, really? What's your opinion with Kerry? Real quick, Ger.
Kerry, take out the Cliffords, and up front they're limited.
Do you think, really?
I think Sean O'Shea, lovely striker of the ball, a talented footballer, but manageable. The Cliffords, when they get going, obviously David is a real gift to the world of Gaelic football, and a pleasure to watch. And then himself and his brother have a great understanding of each other as well, and Paudie's direct running, probably similar version of Stephen O'Brien, younger version of Stephen O'Brien, who's still obviously knocking around the pan as well. But Kerry are probably under pressure in midfield, solid, very solid at the back, but the depth up front, although we've seen some quality players or some quality scores on show against Monaghan, I'd be interested to watch how those players perform against a better defensive team, you know.
So who do you fancy? Like, what out of the pack, who do you think is going to come through here? As in, do you think it's Kerry again, or do you think someone else is going to come out of the pack?
I think Dublin will win the All-Irelands if they keep those fellas fit on the pitch, and I think it'll be the last All-Ireland we win for a long time.
So that's quite a summation from Gerard Brennan there.
There was just like bombs been lobbed every 20 or 30 seconds. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Jack says, disagree, Kerry are the team to beat. Not sure where Dublin can win it, but to me, Kerry are the team. And yeah, so do you believe that that's true, that the standard of Dublin has dropped more towards the pack than the pack catching up? I tend to agree, actually.
Oh, God, yeah. Definitely, yeah. And even looking at Dublin in league games last year, and you're just thinking, God, the difference between 2020 league and even last year's league, we'll say, just poles apart. Yeah, completely different. And, you know, players coming in that, with due respect to them, that just, you know, would have seen very, very limited game time under Gavin's regime. Such was the standard that was there. Now, if you look at Shane, if you, and Conor McKeown did it for us there last week in the paper, I think, if you look at what's gone out the door, the quality of player that's gone out the door, and, you know, the quality of player that's replaced it just hasn't been the same. That's just a statement of fact. And naturally they have come back, but if they have everybody available to them this year and fit in, you know, those big games, particularly whether it's an All-Ireland semi-final or final or whatever it is, maybe against Kerry, I probably would be something similar to Ger. I think that they'll eke they might just eke out an All-Ireland, and that could be the last one for a while. But it's a really interesting campaign. Like, will Kerry kick on with the lack of pressure, shall we say, now? If you get me, I know there's always pressure, but they have an All-Ireland now. Do you know what I mean? A lot of those guys, your Shawnee Shays, your David Cliffords, these boys that were, just on the itch was just to get an All-Ireland, get over the line. They're over the line now. Will they do like what Dublin did after 2011? And will it take a year maybe for them to kick on and climb to that level and realise, like, we have a chance here to go to another level and create a bit of a dynasty? Or is it a case of, we'll have a good few different teams winning All-Ireland over the next couple of years?
Yeah, go. I'd just be disappointed if we didn't see Dublin against Kerry this year. I really want to see that match, and I want to see both teams with fully fit sides.
Well, you're talking about, Tip and Kilkenny playing every year. To me, football is secondary to me to hurling. There's no point in saying any different, but I would watch Dublin and Kerry every day of the week, twice on Sunday. It's a different. There's a different atmosphere to it. Like that semi-final last year. Like there's so much SH1T going on in that game. It was brilliant. Like it was just like the post shaking and players down for 3 minutes and black cards, and it was unbelievable. You'd watch it every day of the week. You really would. Shane, can you bring up a comment Richard Hogan has about Noel skiing in '82? It's just a couple up to. This is a great story. So Noel skiing eating an apple in '82, which was thrown onto the field from the crowd. So at some stage somebody thrown an apple. I don't know whether it was thrown at him or not or whatever, but he was asked after. He's like, Noel, what was the story with the apple? And he just goes, I had a bite. And then he goes, Pat Henderson, he had a bite as well. It's just like as if like they were handing around an apple during the big game and just taking chunks out of it.
Oh, stop. Also in the third round of the league this weekend, Galway are against Tyrone, Monaghan are against Donegal. Is it a relegation 4-pointer? I mean, it is for Monaghan for sure, but Donegal do have one win in the bag, and actually probably in a lot of ways they might feel that if they can get one more victory here, that puts them in a decent old spot for the rest of the league. Monaghan, like when you look at some of the other teams that they'll have to play, this is probably a game that they'll really target, thinking we need something here.
Yeah, Monaghan need to get a result here.
Like they were hammered by Kerry, weren't they? Like it was a bad defeat. Yeah,
it was relatively tight in the first half, but they were run over in the second half. And that came on the back of being very, very competitive against Armagh the first week, and it was just it was a soft goal that they conceded that Rory Beggan probably didn't cover himself in glory. He probably should have got back and stopped it. And if they got the result that day, I think they'd be a lot happier going into this weekend. But this is a relegation 4-pointer in my book, and Monaghan need to get points on the board here. They've conjured some great escapes in recent years, and no more than even last year against Dublin in that final round. But I think Jack McCarron's carrying a knock, isn't he? Didn't he come off the first day, I think? Conor McManus has only kind of been eased back into it. Drew Wiley obviously retired. Colin Walsh retired. Like they've been up in Division 1 for 9 straight seasons, I think. It does kind of look like it's you don't like using the word transition, but there's a lot of the lads that have made them unbelievably competitive for over a decade now are coming towards the end, and some of them have already stepped away.
So you're writing them off?
I think they're going to be under pressure, yeah. I think they're going to be under pressure, I have to say, yeah. I think it's... Yeah. And fair play to Vinnie Corey for filling the breach there as well, because, it didn't look like lads were jumping up and down forward. Wasn't there talk of Jason Sherlock taking them over at one stage, and then all of a sudden it was like Donegal, Roscommon.
Actually, Enda Varley asked Ger Brennan about being linked to the Monaghan job as well, so that's something that you can listen in on.
Yeah, it's just like it's probably another Division 1 side, but a lot of people would probably think that they're gone over the top a bit, and it's fascinating to see they've proved people wrong and maxed out their resources for the goods of the last decade. And if they can get a result at the weekend, they'll probably fancy their chances of staying up. And Donegal, I think, could be without Patrick McBrearty. Didn't he pull up with a bit of a hamstring 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, Paddy Carr was saying Patrick had to be taken off the field with what was very evidently a hamstring injury in Omagh last Sunday week. All it is, he's been medically assessed at the moment. There's nothing more than that. Every team has knocks and bruises, so we're actually waiting for a full assessment before we can say anything about that. Genuinely, of the lads who played against Tyrone, they're all in contention. I just have to be guided by the medical people. And he said there's no return date yet for Ryan McHugh, who's been injured. He hasn't featured so far in the league this year. Just a reminder, we've got a couple of coaching clinics coming up. Pilltown, March the 3rd, Friday evening, 7:30. Barry Hennessy, Pádraig Mahoney and Richie Power. So if you're looking for players that are able to do a bit of goalkeeping and obviously hopefully give a few secrets of John Kiley's success, Pádraig Mahoney, great transition player, obviously free taker and scorer, and Richie Power, one of the greats of hurling. 3 great lads there. Michael Fennelly, obviously former hurler of the year. Brick Walsh, a legend, of course, and Pat Ryan. Again, we're hoping to get some secrets of that success of Limerick. That'll be in Valley Rovers, County Cork, Saturday, March the 11th. So you can buy tickets by checking out the link in the video description underneath this show. And then also, we've started up the live GAA club fundraisers. If you need to drum up some money for the year for your club, let our game come to town, run a show in your local parish. We'll have celebrity guests, quizzes, fun challenges, local legends, a night that will be unfiltered, unedited, unvideoed, if that's a word, because it's going to be a little bit raucous and it's going to be serious crack, but it'll be a great way to drum up money for the year. So email events@ourgame.ie for more details.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing that you're going to have to be in the room for, realistically, because it's that Chatham House rules. What happens in the room stays in the room. This should be great old crack. Yeah, looking forward to travelling the length and breadth of the country there, raising funds for various clubs around the country.
Funnelled involved with Patrick's well this year. Don't know what that means. Oh, Fennelly, is he now?
Very good. Yeah, that's the beauty of our viewers.
Yeah, they're plugged in, they're switched on. Roscommon will meet Armagh this weekend. So Roscommon have been very good so far. They're top of the division on two wins from 2. If they win, that's probably them secure for the year. I'm sure Davy Burke would like to have that in the bag already.
Be unbelievable if they were able to get to, it's the one team you would have said would not be secure after 3 games. It would be unbelievable if they were able to get a draw. Would even edge them that bit closer. And I think what's been best about Roscommon is, how well they finish games. Were they 8-4 down against Galway last day? Scored the last 5. Brilliant finish against Tyrone as well.
They were 3 points down, and they scored 3 goals. Like they've won the 2 games quite differently. I can't remember the exact score against Tyrone, but like 3-10 or something like that. So you're getting lots of scores on the board in terms of goals. You had that threat. They won the other game 9-8, so they eked it out. Probably an ugly enough game. And Armagh have been great to watch. You already mentioned their draw with Mayo, 17 points apiece. So this is a game very much to look forward to. And it's no surprise that TG Carr have decided to pick this one up for Sunday.
Quick one for you. Before this year's league campaign kicked off, of the 18 Division 1 games that Roscommon had played, the last 18 before this year kicked off, how many had they won?
None.
No, they had won a couple of games. They won 2. You just went for the most obvious.
It was going to be really high or really low.
So they'd only won 2. Davy Burke, you'd have to say, has already exceeded expectations of what they would do in Division 1. And if they could gain security after 3 games, if they could do that, Shane, I don't know if they've been finely tuned for these first couple of games, but if they're secure, you could kind of taper back a small bit and then build it up again for championship, Yeah,
and give other lads a bit of extra game time, because it's so good for your panel when you can get let's say they had a couple of defeats and they're like, oh geez, we need to keep playing our strongest team, which means some lads that are a bit further down the pecking order in the panel won't get a chance. They're probably getting itchy feet. They're probably getting a little bit upset. Now you can give them that game time if you get that extra win on the board, while still targeting getting victories. But you can nearly plan out, okay, we'll give number 24, 25, we'll give them a little bit of game time in this game. We'll give number 26 and 7. You basically understand the idea. It's great if you as a manager can give everyone the game time. So Derry against Meath in Division 2. I think this is a pretty tasty fixture.
Yeah.
Colm O'Rourke, of course, this is a big test for him. They've been doing well so far. But Derry are a different level altogether, obviously getting to an All-Ireland semi-final last year. And I think Rory Gallagher will be hell-bent on getting up to Division 1.
This is going to be fascinating from the point of view of Colm has been looking at Derry from afar maybe last year. He was looking at them from a punditry position. When you go and you face a team like Derry, it's there's so much, there's so much tactics involved in this, really, isn't there? And it can be grand saying, oh, if I was manager here, I'd do X, Y, and Z. But when you're actually in that position and they're going up to Owen Begg as well, It's going to be fascinating to see. They hit 7 goals in their last 2 games, haven't conceded a goal, have conceded like reasonably big points tallies, but like you wouldn't be too bothered with that if you're hitting 7 goals and you're not conceding goals. But this is a massive test for them. And again, both teams are on 4 points. The winner or whoever can get a result here, you're in a good position for promotion, aren't you?
You are.
Probably be favouring Derry. I think Derry are a team like that can really kind of kick on and go to another level this year.
Yeah, but they need to broaden their panel a little bit. They were probably picking from the same 17 or 18 lads the last couple of years. Even the fact that they brought back the Glen lads so quickly makes me think, okay, obviously they're prioritising the league, but how much depth do they have in their panel, or how much depth do they feel they have? Clare will meet Kildare this weekend. Well, Kildare have lost 2 from 2 and their scoring difference is -14. I mean, it's not looking great for them. They're not going to be winning Leinster. They could be looking at Tailteann Cup if they're not careful.
Yeah, we said that. Someone passed a comment to a big Kildare supporter about that Jesus, year boys, I'd say it'd be favourites for the Tailteann Cup this year. And like it's built up like it was going to be this big compliment, and then that's not to say the Tailteann Cup's not a great competition. Last year was brilliant in that, but like it was too bad to be true the last day against Cork. Hitting 7 points on home soil, conceding 2-14 after running the Dubs close in Croke Park the week before. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to. They have to get a result this weekend, and I tell you something. Clare are not a team you want to be playing against when you're looking for a result. Like a real teak tough, solid side. What you see is what you get. Those 5 lads that were involved with Joel last night would be disappointed, obviously, coming back into play county action straight away after losing the Sigerson final. But you'd be fancying Clare there, wouldn't you? On home soil as well. I'd probably be fancying Clare to win that one.
Yeah, Richard Hogan says, when and where is Dublin versus Derry in the league? So I just looked it up there. It's the 4th of March, which is a Saturday, and it's on in Celtic Park or Celtic Park, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And it's going to be on RTE as well. So that will be a bit of a tasty one, because a lot of these games feel like Dublin are going to coast them. Actually, to be fair, Cork against Dublin on, is it Sunday? It's going to be on TG Carr. Cork Dublin down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Yeah, I have to say, I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm covering that game, actually. Looking forward to it, is right, yeah. Cork bounced back spectacularly well after that defeat to Meath in the opening round. You couldn't have asked for anything more, really. Brian Hurdy and Stephen Sherlock seem to be absolutely shooting the lights out up front. Sean Powter is fit, and keeping him fit is absolutely massive for Cork. The Dubs were good in the first half against Limerick, but I don't know if that was the Dubs been very strong or Limerick been a bit overawed by it all. And they kind of coasted home after that. Limerick had a bit of a rally after half time. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think the Dubs on the road in Division 2, and that's a difficult game on the road. Going to Celtic Park is a difficult game on the road as well. They're just going to have to try and keep the thing moving. They want to be playing Derry with full points under their belt going into that game. So if there is a slip up or anything like that they can afford it or can just move on and still plough ahead and get to a Division 2 final. But that'll be interesting. Yeah, Cork should test them somewhat. Yeah,
well, Kildare we've kind of mentioned, they've got 0 points. So that's also the case for Louth and Limerick, who meet this weekend. Last year they met in a Division 3 league final, which Louth won by 114 to 112. But I suppose they both knew that promotion was secure at that stage, whereas here to stay up in that top tier, getting a win in this fixture will be huge for either of those sides. Also in Division 3 then, Tipperary against Antrim. Stephen O'Brien, he's ruled out for the rest of the league with a hamstring injury for Tipperary. I mean, when you know that Conor Sweeney's out for the year, Michael Quinlivan isn't there, there's a couple of other injuries as well, huge kind of dependency on Sean O'Connor, I should say, up front as well. It's a tough ask. Tip have lost the first 2 games, narrowly to Down, hammered by Cavan. If Tipperary don't win this game, and I know Tip started the league very poorly last year before ultimately getting promoted, but with those absences, it's kind of a tough job now at the moment. And I think David Power will really badly need a victory here. Obviously, Andy McEntee will be feeling the same with Antrim, who of course have no points after 2 games. But Tip really need a win here.
Yeah, that's a difficult game to predict the result, really, isn't it? Tip are obviously down. You'd probably say they're down probably the 2 out of their 3 best players. You'd say maybe with O'Brien and Sweeney been out. Antrim haven't exactly They haven't.
Well, they were good against Down. They kind of
yeah.
Down came back and pulled it out of the bag, really, didn't they?
Now they were poor against Offaly the first day on home side as well. Yeah, tough game. We've a league forecast competition in my own club in Borough, and with some of these games, they just go for the draw, like when you're trying to predict them, because you can't really confidently call who's going to win either of them. Shane, I want to throw our Thursday quiz. I want to throw 3 questions out there.
Okay.
I have 3 ready to go here. First question is this: who has the most senior hurling championship appearances? So I want the 3 answers delivered together here, okay?
Yeah.
So this is senior hurling championship, and this is Liam McCarthy, okay? It's who has the most senior hurling championship appearances. Second question is who has the most senior football championship appearances?
Okay.
And the third and final question is who was the first ever All-Star?
Okay, I think.
Now, just wait. We might wait a second. Wait for a few answers maybe to come in, or we could look at a few other Division 3 games while we're waiting, and just let things percolate.
Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll go on to the rest of Division 3. Fermanagh are against Down, Cavan are against Longford, and Longford have obviously suffered a couple of heavy defeats since winning the O'Byrne Cup, and Westmeath against Offaly. Are you feeling good about Offaly so far this year? 2 wins from 2.
Yeah, 2 from 2. Westmeath are obviously beaten by Cavan. Like, there's no point in saying any different. Like, this is a huge derby game. Westmeath and Offaly don't particularly like each other. It's probably, in around places like Tubber there, where Bernard Allen would be from, the Offaly forward. You're talking right on the borderline there, really, really close to the two of them. If Offaly were able to get a result in this, it would go a hell of a way towards potentially getting promotion. They're 2 from 2. It would also mean that you're putting Westmeath on the back foot. It's funny, like, results. If we're able to win at the weekend and be on 6 points, and Westmeath are on 2, you're kind of, you know what I mean. It's not a season-defining game, but if Westmeath were to win this weekend, obviously Tailteann Cup winners, they could kick on and be promoted and have a good championship. Whereas if they lose this weekend, and especially losing to Offaly, promotion is maybe out of the question, bar they win all their other games and results go their way. So yeah, that's a massive game. And from a Cavan point of view, Cavan have been really good so far. They obviously only came up from Division 4 last year. They slipped the whole way down really from Division 1, and they're now trying to get back up now. So yeah, we have one answer in: Michael O'Kane, Patrick Horgan, Dean Rock, Damien Martin. One correct answer there. Shano, do you want to try your 3?
Yeah, I wrote down Brendan Cummins. Is he still the top championship appearance maker? Wrong. Nope. Stephen Cluxton.
Yeah, he's miles ahead. Cluxton is miles ahead. Do you know how many championship appearances Cluxton has?
Was it 102 or something like that?
It ended up at 111.
Did it?
Like even allowing for championship structures changing, like, that's miles clear. Like, miles clear. Like, and then that.
I knew that, like, the first All-Star was an Offaly goalkeeper, so I knew that. And then I may have mixed up the name. I wrote down Damien Fox, but I might be mixing him.
No. Damien Fox is a goalkeeper as well from Tullamore.
I was thinking. Yeah. So it is Damien Martin then, isn't it?
Damien Martin, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, have I mixed this up?
Quality department has it correct. Brick Walsh, Cluxton, and Damien Martin. So Brick Walsh has 76 championship appearances. Remember that day when Waterford played Cork? They were already out of Munster, and it was Derek McGrath's last game, and it was basically just a celebration of I love my brick. It was all about, that was kind of all about brick. But he has 76. I think he surpassed Cummins with that, and Jesus, I don't see anybody surpassing Cluxton for, I don't know if that'll ever be surpassed. 111 appearances. It's going to mean you're going to have to play championship for, let's just say, if you played 8 championship games over 15 years, that would be 120. But, like, how many teams actually get to play? Maybe it will in time, and the new championship structure, maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, maybe the structure. But yeah, good questions. I like it. You've been keeping things fresh every week. Division 4 then, round 3, Sligo against Waterford, Carlow will meet Laois, and Wexford will meet Leitrim. You've also got Wicklow coming up against London. So we kind of more or less have it all said, have we?
I think we do, yeah. Obviously, no hurling this weekend, but looking forward to the Fitzgibbon at the weekend and some really, really tasty football games this weekend, yeah. And I look forward to that Cork-Dublin game. And even, like, it's amazing. Division 2 is really interesting, isn't it? Really,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just a reminder, we're brought to you by ourstore.ie. If you want to do a live GAA club fundraiser, every club needs to raise funds throughout the year. We're going to have celebrity guests, quizzes, fun challenge, local legends. Basically an OurGame takeover in your parish for a bit of a raucous, fun video at night. We've also got a couple of coaching clinics coming up. One is in 2020, Friday, March 3rd. Barry Hennessy, Park Manny and Richie Power. The others in Ballyrovers, County Cork. Saturday, March the 11th with Michael Verney, Rick Walsh and Pat Ryan. That's it for the show. Michael, we'll chat to you on Monday.
Cheers, General.